Hello and welcome to In the Pocket. My name's Jonny.
And my name's Chris.
Two totally average bass players, and we're here to talk all about that bass. As well as answering your questions at home, each week we take a look at the latest news, maybe break down some tones, or to give you the lowdown on the low end. Now, for this week's episode, we are chuffed to be joined by probably the planet's most passionate player, as well as being a seasoned session sensation, musical director, and bass educator. Today's guest is not only a tone sculpting guru, a happy chap who loves to slap, always flying the flag for the low end. It's everyone's favorite internet bass daddy. Is Ian Martin Allison.
Oh my goodness, you guys! First of all, as a fellow podcaster, I have to compliment you, Jonny, on your intro. That was amazing.
That was amazing.
Yeah, dude. You did it live and it ruled. And thank you. That was very sweet.
Hey, you're very welcome, and I appreciate that. I was up many hours of the night sweating, thinking, how much more alliteration can I get in here?
I was going to say, Chat GPT absolutely crushed that. Ian, welcome. Thank you for being our second across the pond video guest.
Yes,
there we go.
I'm honored to be here. I love your guys' podcast.
Good company.
Oh. And who was your first? Who was the first? Was it an American?
The first video guest was Philip Conrad.
But yeah, Ian, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. And I love Philip Conrad. I need to say too, I've now watched all of his videos.
I love his channel.
A fan.
Yeah,
he's so cool, and what he's doing with Rhett and what they've done with Rick Beato, and it's like super inspirational. So
I was going to say when I got dressed for the episode, today is my mini homage to Rick Beato. As in, I've got a denim shirt on and some sort of plain white or black T-shirt. He's an exceptionally well-dressed man, Rick Beato, as well as everything else.
Yeah.
His drip
oh, he's amazing.
Mad.
The drip is immaculate.
It's true. Absolutely true. He's amazing. Check this out, too. I don't think Rhett... Do you guys know Rhett Shull?
Yes, yeah.
YouTuber, guitar player.
Yeah.
I don't think he would mind me saying this, but he was the one that pushed Rick to start a YouTube channel.
Really?
So Rhett Shull was interning as well as Phil. For Rick Beato, and they were helping him out and helping him run the studio and stuff. And Rhett was the guy who was like, "Hey, you should really think about doing this," and kind of showed him how to do it and got it started. Yeah.
This guy gets
that's I love that because without that push, who knows? It's so easy not to do something. It's so easy to be like, yeah, I should do that YouTube channel, and then just not do it. And to have somebody in your corner that's like, no, you should do this, because everybody's got on that imposter syndrome, and we're like, I don't know if I want to start doing that. I don't know. Do I have anything to say? Not saying Rick felt that way, but a lot of people do. And so to have someone in your corner, I think, saying, hey, you should do it, I think is, valuable.
Very, very valuable.
Absolutely. The pandemic was that for me. COVID was like, hey, you should really start this YouTube channel. I was like, okay, you know what? You got this. I'll do it for you.
Because you have no other option. You can't play a gig. You can't. Yeah, man.
Let's do this or you will explode.
I was the other way around. The pandemic. My day job exploded in bit. Well, I sold, not to go into too much detail, I sold a remote teaching resource platform before the pandemic. So then it went from bothering people for 6 months with no reply to those people ringing me all day, every day, being like, whatever it costs, we're buying it.
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah. And then I quit.
Okay. And are you full-time bass now? Are you just basing up a storm?
I am professionally unemployed. Yes.
Full-time. Was that for me too? Oh, sorry, Chris.
I was just about to say, full-time. Essentially, kind of I got my own band, but financially, it's kind of like weddings, corporate gigs, stuff like that. That's what pays the bills.
Yep, absolutely. I've done a bunch of that too, and I mean, when it all went away for me in the pandemic, I felt really fortunate. Scott from SBL called and was like, hey, could we, have you come in and do some stuff? And I was like, no, because I can't go into a studio. mean, he was like, will you
Really?
film some stuff for us? Because their business, you know, Chris, like you were saying, they exploded. Like
Yeah.
SBL exploded during the pandemic because everyone was sat at home and like, maybe now it's time to learn how to play the bass. So Scott was like, hey man, can you go in and do some stuff for us? I said, I cannot, because there's no studios are open. He was like, what if we sent you a light? He was like, what if we sent you, it's right there, that light that I'm using right now. He's like, what if we sent you a light and a tripod and, you know, you just shoot with your iPhone? And that's how I started. That's how I started.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, I guess. And then, you know, you guys know, right? You get thrust into this, like if you want to do a podcast or content, there's so much to know beyond like playing the bass. It's so much about like frame rate and all, you know.
Yeah, all this stuff you hadn't even thought about before, stuff you just have to learn now, I guess.
Yeah, yes. and in today's day and age, it's like being selfishly thinking of myself here. It's like, and it'll be the same for you, and it will be the same for Jonny. I can't just be a good bass player. I have to be a social media manager, an audio engineer, a videographer, a video editor. I have to think about marketing. I have to be business savvy. It's like you can't just be good at bass. I mean, I'm not, but that's not the point. But yeah, it's mental. Like we were umming and ahhing with taking this with video for like a long time, way before we actually did. And I'll be honest, it was probably me who was slowing it down more, because I was very much like, well, I mean, I own a camera, but I don't even know how to plug it into a computer. I've never lit anything before.
Yes.
You know, I don't know what I'm doing at all. It
You
was
wouldn't
just
guess
through
that,
sheer,
though.
like,
Look at this sexy lighting.
You wouldn't guess that. I know. Look at that.
Look at that, eh? Looks all right, doesn't
It's a
it?
production.
Noir vibes. It's very nice.
I've been watching a lot of David Fincher lately, so I'm very much like, we were actually, before you came on, we were going to start the episode like this, and then just be kind of like, hello, Ian.
Did load my camera.
I want to play a game. Do you like
That's
bass?
amazing. That's amazing.
Oh, God,
I should have just done this. Just
For those of you listening to this episode, I hate you. But also for those of you just listening, Ian just turned his camera off.
He just flipped us off. It was awful.
This is great banter. It really is.
Oh, well, to get to know you a little bit better, Ian, we like to start off with 3 quickfire questions to hit the ground running. So I'm going to start things off. This might be a tough decision, knowing your Arsenal. What would you say is your number 1 bass?
I'm going to answer.
The house is on fire.
God,
the house is on fire. The
Right.
kids are out. That's all okay. You're running in for 1 bass.
I will say this. Here's the thing. I have been playing this bass so much lately. This is the Mike Lull IMA4, which is a collaboration I did with Mike Lull. I freaking love this bass. When I'm without it, I miss it. It's a hybrid between a jazz bass and a Thunderbird. I absolutely freaking love this bass. But if the house
If
were
you
on
say
fire,
a bass sticks, oh my God.
I'm going to grab it. I think I've got enough cable. I think I've got enough cable to do this, guys. Wish me luck.
We're going wireless.
Here we go.
It would be this one.
Oh,
yeah. Yes, of course.
Yeah,
Of
this is
course.
a 1978 Antigua Fender jazz bass. This was the first, like, I knew I wanted a vintage bass at some point. I was in my 20s and I bought this from a guy on eBay. Craziest thing. Like, I found it on eBay and it was 2003, I think. And a couple people had bid, but it wasn't, you know, and I just messaged him and I said, I don't want to bid. Could we agree on a price? Would you just be willing to sell it to me? And then it turns out that we were from a similar place in Montana and we kind of connected. And he was like, hey, I'll sell this bass to you for $1,100, which at the time was like a fair price. And now is, you know, crazy low. These are probably between $3,000 and $4,000 or something.
Yes.
And I said, great. He said, here's the deal. The only thing is you have to be the highest bidder so that I can cancel the eBay auction. And I said, oh, he said, because there's bids on it. So he said, on the phone, just bid it up. And then once you're the high bidder, I'll just shut it down and I'll sell it to you. I said, okay, great. So I started to bid and we got up towards $1,100 and it went past and I kept getting outbid. And he was like, it's okay, don't worry, I'll still sell it to you for that, just keep going. And it felt like alarms were going off, but I kept going, and I think we got up to something like $1,700. And then finally I was the high bidder, and I was like, this is so awkward, and he was like, look, I was like, if you want to sell it to that person for that, you can, or whatever. And he was like, look, I agreed to do it with you. I feel a kinship with you. Let's do it. And I said, okay, amazing. And then he said, I don't take PayPal. You'll have to send me a check. So, and I'm not advising anyone to do this, but again, like I didn't ask my mom. I didn't ask my friends. I just took all the money I had and wrote this guy a check, Marty. I wrote this cat a check, put it in the mail, and just prayed. And then like a couple weeks later, this showed up. And it's amazing.
Man, wow.
And then, he would like check in, like, how's the bass doing? And the crazy thing about this
for 1,700.
Yeah. And, he got shorted $600, but I really, it was amazing.
Faith in humanity restored,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was very cool. And, when it came, it had just a little bit of wear here. And I mean, my arm did all of this wear. I mean, have played the hell out of this bass. Like all the white here, is from like grabbing it, picking it up. And I just I've toured it a lot. It's been on a bunch of different records. I love it. It's very honest sounding. It's not the best sounding jazz bass. It's not the best playing jazz bass, but it's sort of the one that I put the hours in on,
Yeah, I understand.
And I'm a firm believer that there's not like one holy grail out there, even though, like you were saying before we started to record, like, but I'll keep looking. Like, I don't think
but there might be.
Yeah, there might.
Half of the
What if there is? This is,
I know.
I have spoken.
Yeah, this bass is, it's a testament to that thing of like, you fall in love sometimes with not like the best thing, but the thing that you maybe put the work in on, right?
Like me and Chris. I fell in love with Chris because I put the work in on him.
Attaboy, working on that relationship.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so it's 78 Antigua for sure.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I tell you, that bass made me enjoy Antigua. Because years before, I was like, oh, God, a vomit burst. Jeez.
Yeah, I know.
And then I saw you with yours, and I was like, oh, my God, no, I get it.
I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of it until I saw Ian in some sort of Instagram video. And I immediately went, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
None of this elitism,
Yeah. Well, it's very polarizing. Yeah. And people call it vomit burst or mold burst or like.
Mold burst is good.
Yeah. Mold
Shrek
burst. Is good. Or like, but I think it's beautiful. I think it, like, my grandparents had appliances that were kind of that like avocado green. I don't know if that was over in the UK, but it was a total time in the States where, like green, kind of avocado green, yellowy gray was kind of hip, and it was in everybody's kitchen. And so this sort of reminded me of my grandparents' house, and it just is, it's such a vibe. And I love it that not everybody likes it, like it's kind of the middle finger to like a 10 top and bird inlays. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like a little bit of like a nah, we don't need to be fancy. In fact, we're going to use this odd kind of like rotten egg finish. I don't know, man. I absolutely love it. But yeah, it is, I guess, an acquired taste.
Beautiful.
I'm a big fan. Someone actually asked on Instagram, this isn't related to, like, it's not one of the questions we're going for in the end, but someone asked, why have you left the sort of the Jameson ashtray kind of the pickup cover on the neck? Why have you left that on?
Dude, that's so...
Never tried one. Never played one.
I was excited to answer this question. So this came with both covers, because there was another, there's a giant bridge cover that goes over the bridge and pick up. And if anybody, speaking to the audience, like, Leo Fender never ever meant for the bridge and the pickups to be visible. Sort of like, how like, do you guys have Chipotle in the UK? It's like a burrito place.
We do not. Okay. We have burrito chains, but they're probably not that good.
Well, like in the States in the 90s, Chipotle was like this franchise that came in, like a fast food burrito place, and all the like HVAC, like the heating and AC and stuff was exposed. Like, and in businesses, everything is like, in the 80s, like drop ceilings, and you hide all that. Well, they were
like WeWork. WeWork offices
Yes.
are like that. Yeah.
Yes, where you see the pipes and that became kind of hip.
Yeah.
Well, this, like, to Leo Fender, not having something covering the bridge and the pickup would be like not having covers over your electrical outlets.
Right.
Like, just kind of feels unfinished. So he did it for aesthetics and also to put the mutes back in the bridge. But he just thought that these things were ugly and they were never meant to be seen. And I think I get such a kick out of that. And they look so cool. And when I got the bass, I was, taking off the covers. And my wife was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm taking these off." And she's like, "Why?" I was like, "Because you can't play with them. Like, nobody can." Like,
no
you
one's
can't
deciding where I play.
It's insane, I mean, you got this space. And then she said, "Have people learned to play with them on?" And I said, "Yes."
And you were.
And then she said,
"Shot down."
"Yeah." And then she said, "Man up." And so
you went halfway then.
Yeah, I did. This one I can't do because I play a lot with a pick and I like palm muting. And
I was going to say I don't think I would be able to do that. I do a lot of palm muting.
This one though, I think is actually really cool because it gives you sort of like hand presets. So check it out. Like, I love playing. You put your thumb here and you play right behind.
Okay,
that's a great sound, and I love this position on the bass. The other one is Jamerson, where you do thumb on it, 3 fingers on it, and play in front. That's totally like the Jamerson approach, like it's just one finger. And that's such a comfortable way to do it. And then the other way is like the Sting, where you put your palm on it, or the Marcus Miller. You put your palm on it, and then you're either playing with your thumb or you're slapping, right? So like that, it's sort of like
interesting.
You're either behind it, in front of it, or palm on it. And to me, I just got really used to it, to where then when I started playing other basses without them, I kind of missed it. So the dare, it was totally a dare from my wife that just loves to tease me. It's amazing. Wow. That's why I left it on originally, and then I got really used to it.
The next one should be, you'd be covering all of the strings. Be like, now try. Now try, Ian.
Yeah. All right, big man.
Yeah.
Why do you need 4 strings?
Ian, if people learn how to play without pedals, you take that back.
Head check stomps gone in the bin.
Head check something like
That's right.
3-leaf octaver gone immediately.
You just conjugate this all the way up. Do you even need a bass? Like, what if you just are like, what if you just do it that way?
Yeah. You turn into like Gregorian chanting.
Yeah.
Yes. Amazing. Well, we should probably move on to the second quickfire question.
I'm so sorry, God. I am not a quickfire guy. So
this is nothing. This is nothing. You should see the ones me and Jonny do on our own.
All right.
just talk at each other, not even listening. Question 2. We would like you to describe your bass playing in 3 words.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
I would like to think the first one is supportive, but I would like to think the second one is creative, and I would like to think the third is aesthetic.
Ooh. Explain that last one, please.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. And you didn't say punchy. Everyone says punchy. So that's quite
Punchy,
nice.
no.
Punchy.
I think I tend to think more about the sonic aesthetic versus notes. So Scott and I talk about this a lot, where like he grew up loving fusion and he's a great soloist, and he's thinking about harmony, and he's thinking about notes, and he's playing with that in mind. And I went the other way. So I'm more of like a pop rock player, where I'm thinking about the sound of the note way more than the note. So I'm never really thinking about, here's the fill that I want to play. Almost never. I'm thinking about what's the sound that's going to be the thing that's going to make the artist happy, right? So I feel like I never ever get hired to play a bunch of notes, and that sounds reductive, and I don't mean that as a slam. Like, I don't get hired for my pyrotechnic or like phenomenal playing. I get hired to make a simple part, and to hopefully make it sound really good. So that's why I think supportive for me is I always want to be serving the song. That's, boring, but right. I mean, I really do.
We say it all the time. Don't worry about it. I have a phrase all day, every day. And if this comes up on the SBL podcast, I will know. I always say we are the best supporting actor. Like,
Oh,
we're
that's
not
great.
Leonardo DiCaprio, we're Tom Hardy. That's what we're going for.
Oh, that's what
Yes.
you want.
It's everything
mean,
I want.
It's like, okay, so yes, and I will say, and I think that if you're just in support mode, I find that if I'm just supportive, I sometimes yearn for, I don't only want to be supportive, I want to actually play a part or a sound that's going to make it better. And that's,
Well, this is why...
yeah.
No, go on. You finish.
It's like, maybe that's ego, and maybe that's kind of presumptuous, but I do always, in a session, I'm always trying to think like, okay, yes, base level, pun always intended, is support the song. But then next level for me is, can I do something that will make a statement that will make the song better? Like, is it a sub hook? Is it a line? Is it a sound that's going to make the artist go, fuck, like that is better than it was before. That's what I want.
And
I'll tell you why.
moments.
I'll tell you why. So this is why I like my supportive actor analogy. Would that be the right word? Or maybe metaphor? I don't know. As opposed to being like a background dancer or extra. So, best supporting actor is still the supporting actor.
Totally.
But most of the time we'll have moments where they are front and center.
Right.
Like, have you two seen Oppenheimer?
I haven't. Wish I had.
Okay,
No.
right. Well, so not really any spoilers.
I heard it's the bomb.
Hey.
Never heard that one before. Okay, right. I'll do you a better one. Have you seen the Barbie movie?
I haven't.
Yes.
Ian.
I know. I'm ruining your analogies, but I get it.
You really have.
I get it.
Okay, right. Okay. In both of those movies, obviously the main actor is Margot Robbie and Cillian Murphy, respectively, and the supporting actor would be Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt.
Okay.
Both of those people are the supporting actor, but in several moments of the film, they are front and center. But overall, it's a supportive role. Emily Blunt has two specific sections in Oppenheimer where she just crushes it.
Yeah.
And it's one of them where she says, like, and again, this is why it works for bass. She has like two lines in each of these scenes, and they're both moments where you just go, that at the end of them. So that's why I kind of use best supporting actor as a phrase.
Great.
That's the noise I want to hear every bass line I'm playing. Someone just like losing their shit in the background.
No one has ever done that with me. If anything, they've gone, can we turn him down in the break? Yeah. It's a bit much. Keeps double thumbing over wham tunes.
I had someone, it's so true what you're saying. And like, it's choosing those moments to step out and to make a moment so much better, knowing when to hold back. I had someone, I was at House Pie, weirdly, many moons ago.
When was this?
A long time ago.
How old are you?
Well,
it was last week.
21st birthday the other day.
Liar.
I've lost my train of thought now.
You were at a house party.
House party.
Skrillex was playing.
Where all good things happen. And we're talking about bass, of course, because it's my personality. And the person was saying, like, well, they were also a bass player. I wasn't just talking their ear off. They said, well, a bass players, they don't. I said, I don't feel like I'm that good though, because like I don't do all this fancy stuff. And he was like, yeah, but that's not what makes you necessarily a good player. He said it's knowing when to play those things and knowing how to do it and little bits that can make it so much better. He said that will go a million miles more in 90% of time you're playing. And I was like, oh my God, brain unlocked. Like, oh my God. So that's why I never practiced again.
Yeah, it's like, oh, cool. Happy with my progress thus far. I think that's absolutely true, especially if you are a side musician, right? And you're playing for other artists. I think like the place where it flexes from that is when you want to be your own thing, or like write your own music, or be an artist, or I've seen this shift in friends of mine where they start out kind of playing a certain thing and then they want to make a record, and then they want to, a great case in point is Corey Wong. So Corey, I grew up playing, I didn't grow up playing, but there was a time period where Corey and I were on a bunch of the same gigs together. He grew up in Minneapolis. I moved here, and I met him and we played, and I played on his first record. I co-wrote a song on Corey's first record. It's the last song on his first record called That's My Passport Photo. But Corey was doing the thing where he was trying to be the chameleon, and he was playing jazz gigs, and he was playing wedding gigs, and he was playing church and all that stuff. And really trying to really fit
everything. Yeah.
Yes. And then there came a time where he stepped past that for his artist role, where he was like, I think I want to be a brand, an artist, an ambassador for the guitar. Like, he went a step further and was like, I'm going to do this thing. And that has been, I have always been a side musician, but somebody that's like, I'm flirting with releasing my own music. And I'm in this sort of time now where I'm not trying to take every session. I'm not taking every gig. I'm taking the ones that I feel like really resonate with my personality and the stuff that I want to do on the instrument. And that's really a position of privilege. And I understand that, but it's also something that I'm aiming for. It's really important to me that I'm not just saying yes to every opportunity, which I did in my 20s and some in my 30s as well. But at the ripe old age of 45, really like pursuing the things that creatively fill me and the things that I feel like I'm good at and I'm passionate about, versus trying to fit into everybody's thing and play the perfect supportive thing in every role. Not saying I'm not going to play a simple P-bass thing on somebody's track if I say yes to that session, but I find that more and more I'm pulled more to kind of, I don't know, something that resonates with me as more of an artist, which is kind of a highfalutin douchey thing to, I actually don't think that it is. I don't think that it's like a highfalutin douchey thing to say. I just hear myself say it and I'm uncomfortable with it because I've been the supportive bass player for, for so long. But yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm almost ready to break out.
I'll blow some smoke up your bum now, Ian, because, when you said about, Corey thinking about, becoming an ambassador for the guitar, I think that's what you've been doing for the bass, online for a long time now. And you've kind of stepped into that role now of being, for a lot of players, the face that people see and think about with bass, I think now. It's just every person I speak to that will mention you, it's just like, I love that guy. He's great. He's just such a positive attitude, brings everything he's got to every single piece of content or thing about bass, just like oozing passion on the screen. And so, it's obvious that then you want to go down your own creative route after years of serving, the bass world and giving back now, you're going full circle.
Giving back.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I mean, I think though, for me, I really understood, like before pre-pandemic, I was listening to a lot of online personalities and I was thinking about content and I was thinking about brand and thinking about like how to build an audience. And that to me was about service. It was about answering questions and it was about being a part of the community. While still, I mean, I'm not everybody's bass player. There are definitely people out there that think what I do is cheesy because I'm not more into jazz, or like I'm not for everyone, but I try to just show you all, everybody in the bass community that's paying attention, what I do and how it's worked for me, and how being, I'm making a living doing this in a city that's outside of the norm. I was too old by the time I got my first, I'm an outlier there. I was 36 before I went on my first tour. That's kind of unusual. And just, I play on a bunch of not weird, but pop records and use sounds that I think that people are maybe more using in sort of neo jazz, like Tim LaFave, Jonathan Marin. Those guys are using, kind of similar sounds, but in kind of a jazz, like a neo jazz context. And I'm pop guy. So I guess for me, for a long time, I was self-conscious about that. And I was like, oh, maybe I need to be playing more jazz. And then when I turned 40, which was 5 years ago, I was like, fuck that. I'm going to speak about it like I like it, like I know about it from my perspective only, and talk about what I find to be interesting about it, and maybe someone else will too. And it just, it really grew from that kind of flag in the ground of I'm not going to have false modesty about it. And I'm also not going to be like, oh, I don't know, these other guys are cooler and or whatever. I'm just going to be like, here's what I do. And I love what I do. And if you want to check it out, here it is for you to check out, and it just grew from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
I think
nice
it takes
indeed.
a lot to not, because there's a lot of elitism out there. And I think it just goes against that, and I mean, it's just like, this is something for all of us to enjoy and the positivity that comes with it. I want to take things back a little bit now.
Please.
Scale it back. Go back to the beginning, because the third quickfire question is, why, Ian? Why, Ian, did you pick up the bass?
Why, Ian? I wish that I had like a better, but I was really tall, really young, and I was bad at, like, I was in all the sports, and I was so bad at basketball. And I remember, I've told the story before on the SBL podcast, but briefly, I like got the ball and shot repeatedly at the wrong basket, missing it, and with the crowd roaring at me. And I thought they were like, hell yeah, this is your moment, Ian. But they were all yelling wrong basket. My entire family was in the stands, and I kept shooting. I shot 3 times and missed 3 times at this basket. And then like a wiry athletic kid from the other team like laid the ball in and patted me on the shoulder and said like, thanks. And I remember, and like I looked in the stands and all my like family had their head in their hands, and I remember like going back home to my mom saying, I can't do this. Like, I'm bad at it. I hate it. And she was like, well, you have to do something besides video games. And I was like, I want to play the drums. And we were in a little house, and she was like, nah. And I was like, fine, I want to play the stupid bass. Because I had, like a cousin that played the bass, shout out Harrison Towner. I had an uncle that played the bass, shout out Roman Richardson. And they were really cool. And I had seen them do it, right? So I was like, maybe I kind of wanted to pave my own way. But since I got the no on the drums, I was like, maybe I'll try the bass. And then I fell hard for the bass early. So I've never played any other instrument. I never got good at keys. I was never like, oh yeah, I played a little sax, a little guitar. I'm bad at everything else. I really went hard after the bass guitar, a little upright as well. But I fell in love with it really early because I was absolute shit at sports.
You're like, well, if it can't be this, then if I'm not slam dunking, I'm slapping bass.
That's absolutely right.
Nice.
And I don't regret it at all.
And being a tall guy, I guess that's where the Thunderbird enjoyment comes from as well, because you can actually handle one of those beasts.
Yeah, they are. They're really big. Yeah, that's true.
Amazing. Well, I think we should move on to our first listener question. Before we do that, I want to do a little plug. Thank you so much to everyone that reached out to us on Instagram, on our main account and the private account, left comments, etc. Really, really nice. Make sure you go and follow us at In The Pocket Pod over on Instagram. And that's where we're living it up. So make sure you go and do so. Chris, do you have our first question?
Question 1, which is quite funny because we have almost covered this a tiny bit already. How did you get started as a session musician, and how did that progress into education?
I started actually as an educator first. I taught bass way before I should have. I was like the hot shit teenage bass player in my town, So basketball goes so poorly. I'm playing the bass, and then I started to like slap and tap and do all that stuff early. I was into Les Claypool and Victor Wooten. So there was a store called Jones Music, man, R.I.P. Jones Music in Kalispell, Montana. They needed a bass player. I was a bass player. I was like good. I was like teenage good. I was flashy, right? And they hired me at 17 to be the bass teacher, and it was horrible. I was such a bad teacher. I was enthusiastic, but I was showing everybody how to go like, wait. I was showing everyone how to go like, isn't that cool? You can play a fifth, a 9, and this, and then you can break down. I mean, I was doing just the stupidest stuff with my students, and they were all coming out like tapping and slap. I mean, so terrible. So yeah, I'm
like,
so
can we just
sorry.
do Smoke on the Water, please?
No.
Yeah. Like I was like, no, you don't want to do that. You want to do this. And so, yeah, that's how I started, as like a bad overcompensating teacher. But then I was in a band. I was in this rock band called Down and Above for ages. We worked with a producer. Whenever I answer this question and I try to do it quickly, like on, how do you get into playing sessions? I will always say it's just about relationship. And so building a relationship in your career is the most important asset. I mean, yes, you got to play, skills, all that, being a good bass player, a good hang, yeah, blah, blah, but it's about people. And so my band worked with this producer and connected with him, and sort of seeing the relationships as bigger than just the task at hand. Matt Kirkwold, incredible. He, produced a record of my band. It was called Down and Above. The record's called Anodyne. And I learned so much from this guy. I was like 10 years my senior, about that, maybe 8. And he just knew everything. He was just this wealth of info, and he was encouraging and cool. And he hired me for a session. And on that session, it was like for a fiddle player, it was like pop country kind of. And I was so excited because I wanted to be a session player. And I brought in, some different basses. And I think, I had at the time a Billy Sheehan Attitude bass that I was like, this bass is way better than a Fender. Like, see, it's a P bass too, but it's better. I think this is so embarrassing. I even think I called it like the Fender Hunter. That's so stupid, like just like stupid overcompensating. I was 24 or something. And I will never forget, like, we played and I'd prepared and we played. And then, there was one tune about 3 songs in where he was like, hey, in the bridge, let's do like a McCartney thing. And I swear to God, I didn't quite know what he was talking about, because my Beatles, if I'm honest, my Beatles knowledge was not good. I was like a metal kid, pop music, hip hop kid. And so I was like, is he like, I wonder. And he's like, like Paul McCartney, the Beatles. And I was like, oh, sure. And all I could think of was like, he played high, like all I think it was like, he played high up on the bass, So she was like, do something like McCartney would on the bridge. And I swear to God, I was like, like just played as high as I could on the bass. And we tried a few things, and he stopped and he said, hey, let's be done. And what I'd like you to do is go out and buy Beatles #1s and go buy Hitsville, USA, the Jamerson. Do you know anything about Motown? And I was like, no. And he was like, okay, Beatles #1s is when you're still buying CDs, right? Beatles #1s, Hitsville, USA, digest that material, learn some of that music, and then call me. And I said, okay. And he said, so we're done. And I said, okay. And it dawned on me that I got fired. Like the weight, it settled on me. And I like packed up my stuff, and I like went out to my car, and I got to my car, put all of it in it. And I sat in my car, and it was raining, and I cried. I just sat in my car and wept. And then I went to the record store and I bought Beatles #1s and I bought Hitsville, USA, and I did that stuff. And that was a huge, like, going through that with him. And then we worked on other stuff, that he was amazing. Matt Kirkwold is amazing. He's a great producer, great guitar player. And I always tease him with this story now, now we've done sessions together, and I'm like, remember when you fired me? And he's like, oh my God. But it was really good. And it takes somebody that cares about you to actually do that, right? Like, he could have just been like, it's not working out, and kind of been like, yeah, man, I'll call you later. And then I didn't know why. I never got called back. But he was like, you suck. Here's why. Fix it. It's in your power to fix it. He was like, you're a good player, man. Like, if you just want to play in your band forever, that's fine. But if you want to be a session player and you don't have McCartney and Jamerson as references, it's a problem, like a problem. And I was like, okay, got it. And so for me, it began this thing of like, I used to think that music was about my likes and dislikes. Like, I like that and I'm about that, and that sucks. But it was the beginning of my journey of no, like, music is just text. It's all lanes. You might not like each lane, but it's all lanes. So you need to know what John Paul Jones did with Zeppelin. Even if you're a Beatles guy, you need to know what Colin Greenwood did with Radiohead, even if, you're more of a Rage Against the Machine guy. Right? Like, you have to, as a session musician, you have to have those references. And I started to delight in learning more about music and going, oh, Hofner, he played a lot of notes and kind of up high because it didn't sustain. And like, oh, this is so interesting. And so for me, was like, that began this incredible journey of curiosity about music and about different instruments and different vintage instruments. And it was huge. So I have Matt Kirkhold to thank for starting me on that journey.
Wow. That's there's so much even now that I've learned from this, stuff you can take away. What would you say is like the thing, in that moment when you're like, oh God, like, do I suck?
Yeah.
Oh, this isn't good.
Yep.
What did you learn about your playing in that moment? Because you think like, oh, I can technically do this, but I just don't have the know-how. Like,
yeah. I learned that playing very simply and coming up with ideas was more important than anything else. That it was so much more important. Like my references, that if someone said Tame Impala, or if someone says that now, or someone says Glass Animals, or someone says Muse, that I can hear it in my mind. And I think with all of those ideas at your disposal, if you really are versed in Weston Holmes playing, or you really are versed in, Jerry Jamont's playing or something, those things can come out in your own playing. And so for me, I learned that like, okay, I could go on the bass quickly, and I could play fast scale passages. Like I was technically a pretty good player kind of early on. Like I could play fast.
There was proficiency in kind of
yes.
Yeah.
But my ideas were shitty and my references were shitty. Or they weren't shitty, they were just limited. I should say that. My ideas and references were limited. And I think that then that really hurt me going into early sessions where I was just like, yeah, I'm a badass. I could play fast. And and that doesn't help you in the studio. You need time, you need taste. You have to play it with great time, with great taste, and with really informed references, like decades of music listening at your behest. You have to have that, I think. And everyone starts not with that, but that's what you are hopefully like garnering along the way. And I think for me, it was just a painful process of beginning thinking I was the baddest, and then realizing, oh, I suck. Like I suck in a lot of ways. And so for me, it was just like trying to fill in those gaps and figure out, man, I got to address this head on. Because if I want to do this, I'm seeing now that like, this is really important to get a hold of this part of my playing, because in the beginning, everyone is excited by your flashiness as a teenager. Everybody's excited about the extended techniques like slapping. I just watched the thing on Instagram of you guys talking about slapping and how, and I was so into it, you guys. I mean, I was like double thumbing, and I was so into that stuff. And then you realize that does not help you in the studio. 99% of the time, that does nothing for you. In fact, it can hurt you. So, more like playing along to records and understanding your musical references is where it really came for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of the clips you might see of bass players going viral or stuff online is the double thumbing, is the crazy stuff, because it's mind blowing. It's like, wow, that's the stuff that makes
it's an impressive thing to see on social media. It's like Jacob Imansky's double thumb technique is unbelievable, obviously.
It's unbelievable.
But if you sat him down and went, we're doing a Jackson 5 gig, he'd crush that as well, wouldn't he? Or like, like if you hired him for a wedding, he'd absolutely nail it, and you would never see a double thumb.
Dude, yes. Umansky is an absolute monster. He is such a monster. And I think that you're totally right. He has amazing taste and he can do anything. The thing about that guy, though, is that like he's doing that extended technique stuff in a place that makes so much sense, Yeah. Like he, out of anybody, should be double thumbing and thumping, and tapping and all that stuff, because the intervals music really requires it.
It's almost like you're not serving the song by not doing that.
Right.
It's like the music almost calls for that style of technique. It's like if Polyphia got a new bass player and he was like a Duff McKagan, like Duff McKagan, Mike Dirnt, like I'm apes with a pick. And don't get me wrong, they're insanely good. But it's like, nah, this sucks.
Now, what we
doesn't-
need
it just doesn't work.
Is that what you need? Yeah. And it comes down to lanes. I mean, there's a great example of, that Les Claypool auditioned for Metallica.
I would kill to see that. I would have.
I know, me
Metallica
too.
are my favorite band.
Dude,
Like,
I wish that videotape existed. Maybe somewhere it does. I wonder if anyone was recording. But and they
will have been. It will have been recorded. 100%.
I wonder. I mean, I would die to see that. I love Metallica as well, and I love Primus. And just to see, two completely different things, but both incredible, incredibly creative, and completely music world changing. And they just don't go together.
I think they even said that
right.
when they halfway through the audition, and they both looked at each other and went, "This is not working. I am not the guy for you, and you are not the band for me."
Yeah. But I mean, thank God, because then it's we got Primus,
Yeah, and we got Jason Newsted, which is my
Exactly.
top 3 favorite bass players ever.
Oh
Maybe top
man,
5.
amazing!
3
I've
or
used
5.
that myself too.
He's in the top 5.
Top 5, yeah. I
He's
think
top
personally
5 for me,
what we
100%.
need is for someone close to Jacob to be like, well, you're not a real man if you're not playing a 4-string Hofner, are you? Then he's like,
Roll up.
double thumb on one of those.
Just gaslight him. Just your action is that low, really?
Dude, you're probably not getting a very strong sound because your action's so low. I mean, you
Jacko only needed 4.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think though, if he dedicated his life not to doing the thing he's doing with intervals and with his other band that's tech metal, but if he was I'm going to be a bass player in Nashville and do sessions, he could absolutely do that. And it wouldn't be the 6-string Dingwall, and it wouldn't be double thumbing, but he would have the wherewithal, right, to know, oh, okay, maybe for this session I'm bringing the P bass, and it's because he's taken that risk on being an artist that he is afforded the the time and the right place to do that music and to play those techniques. It's because he's taken that risk of I'm going to do this. I'm going to be one of the world's greatest. I actually think he is. I think he's one of the best in the world at doing those techniques. He's a bad dude.
Yeah, absolutely. In that corner of playing.
Yes.
I mean, maybe I forgot his name. Is it Clay something from Polyphia?
Clay Gober.
Yeah, that's the one. He'd be up there.
He's a beast too. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and then as you expand that, kind of when I think of double thumbing and really slapping, it's you've got people like Mark King, but even he's not. Yeah, it's still aggressive slapping, and it's very fast and double thummy and lots of ghost notes, but it's not a Jacob Umansky style.
Dude,
it's crazy, isn't it? And
yeah.
you raised a really good point before we move on about relationships. I get even someone a relative sized big content creator like me, I get people messaging me going oh, what kind of stuff should I be posting to get work online?
Right.
And I'm very honest, and I say, I've got to be honest with you, I have done 1 gig in 3 years where the person has come to me through social media. I saw your videos, noticed you live within 2 hours of us, and we need a bass player.
Right.
Everyone else has been, oh, you played with Joel the other week.
Yes.
He said you were good. I need a dep. Oh, hey, blah blah blah. Is our dep, but he's not available. But he recommended you. It's all just been I don't like to say who you know, because that kind of sounds a bit more elitist, but it's very much he's cool, get him. Or oh, I know him, he's good, we'll get him. It's unfortunate. Well, not even unfortunately. It is that simple. That's how simple.
Absolutely true.
That's how simple, and that pays my bills just from being, which is mad because I think I'm a dick, but that's just me. But Johnny's I don't know.
Man, check me out. A friend of mine, I can't actually remember who it was that said this. I wish I could credit them properly, but said to me, it's actually not who you know, but it's who knows you.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Because you could know, I think I know John Mayer. I mean, he doesn't know me. I know him.
I
I'm
also
like,
think
John
I
Mayer.
also think I know John
him.
Mayer.
Yeah, maybe I'd love to play, but he doesn't know me, right? So I think partly it's about getting, exactly like you say, gigs, especially gigs in your town where you're working, come from you being a part of other gigs, doing great at that other gig. And so someone's like, oh, who's on the gig? Oh, it's Chris. Oh, thank God. Like, that's what you want, right? That's what I want when someone is like, hey, who's on it? And they're like, oh, Ian. And I want people to go, oh, okay, cool, good. Or like, oh, hire Ian. He'll do a good job. Like, he'll learn the music. He'll bring cool sounds or whatever, right?
Absolutely. There's an amazing quote from Guy Pratt, who's in the top 5, by the way.
I love Guy Pratt. Yeah.
Guy Pratt has a quote that I hope I'm not misquoting it too much, but I can't remember what it was an interview for. It wasn't the long form interview you guys did with him.
Yeah.
Which I would also say, by the way, is like top 10 favorite YouTube video of all time.
Oh man, that's really meaningful to me.
It's so good.
Awesome.
Seriously,
Thank you.
That
so
is so
fun.
good. And your Michael League interview from a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh, right on. Thank you.
Well, good. We really enjoyed it. But the someone's asking, it's like, what advice would you give to session players? And Guy Pratt literally goes, just be a laugh. Just be a laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Because he talks about the producers he's worked with or the artists he's worked with. The musical director, for example, will be like, need a bass player for this. Pulls up the mobile phone. There's 200 bass players in the form book. And all of them can play. All of them can play the parts. That's not up for debate. What are they going to do? They're going to go, we'll get Guy in. Guy's a laugh.
Yeah, like he's fun energy to be around.
Yes, that's always been my thing. It's like I've always been kind of like, I'd try my best always to be like, right, I'm on time, I'm professional, I'm easygoing, I'm fun to be around. Which is funny because behind closed doors, I'm a massive stress head. But on the gig at work, everything is very much like, we don't have this cable. Don't worry about it. We'll make it work. Cool, it's all like cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I find too, like,
very good advice.
Preparation too. Like, you have to. I found when I started to do the Eric Hutchinson gig, he's an artist that I've been playing with for about 10 years, and I'm his musical director now. And when I started that gig, I remember doing it with there was a sub drummer on the gig too. And I had prepared so much because I really wanted to do great. I really liked his music. The sub drummer had prepared a little less. And before the gig was frantically like looking at notes and asking about like, oh, when we go to the bridge, do we do that? And I thought, oh, it filled me with dread.
Yeah.
And, and I thought to myself, man, I really want to show up and do a great job. And so that the music is just, like you say, like Guy Pratt, he's going to learn the music. So then that's done. That you're not talking about the music. It's over. You're talking now about like, oh, hey, how are your kids? Or like, oh, did you see that movie? Or you're being in life with them. You're not going, oh my God, how is it intro 8 bars or 16? Or like that's done. That's over. That's well in your rear view mirror.
And I've been that guy. I've been that guy. I've been, I've just talked about being prepared and stuff like that, but I've been I've got to the gig and gone, my idea of an acceptable level of practice and preparation for this show was absolutely not even in the right ballpark.
I have too, if I'm honest.
Like, oh yeah, I mean, but it's part of the learning curve.
Yes.
Because I remember I did a gig and I was so stressed. Like, I got through it luckily, but it was one of those where it's like, if I could have ran it 5 times, I ran it once. And it was like, I was eyes glued to the charts. Like my phone was on a stand like this.
Yeah,
I didn't blink. I didn't blink for an hour.
Oh, I know.
I was like,
screen locks, you're gone.
I was being so dumb. Like, I'd pulled up PDF charts of songs that were sheet music, and I can read sheet music, but I can't fucking sight read it.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm sat there going, you idiot, we are never doing this again.
I know.
And I've never done that since.
Oh man.
Ever.
And I think everybody's been in that boat, right? Even the people that talk about preparation, like I got to interview Amos Heller from Taylor Swift's band, and he talked about his level of prep is really intense. I don't know if you guys
2 songs a day. Oh yeah, I've
2 songs a day. Yes,
I've listened to it twice.
Man, he is an incredible example of what like professionalism looks like. And when he was talking about 2 songs a day, and I mean, I'm going, and then I'm thinking, God, remember that time I crammed 12 songs in and wrote them all out, and
I mean, yeah, I did. The day of recording to today, I've just learned 17 songs.
Amazing
for a wedding, and I'm like, don't get me wrong, I would much rather give it like maybe 3 songs a day, 4 songs a day, and just like I know the songs. Like, don't get me wrong, I get onto a giggable standard, but I don't know the line. I know, like,
right.
Here's the chords, here's the style, here's this kind of thing. No one in the audience is going to notice. But if you recorded me and A-B'd the original recording of what I'm doing, you'd be like, yeah, it's the same. It works, but it's not the part.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
I mean, if you had a...
But I'm also not playing for Taylor Swift.
Well,
like,
right. And, I think if Amos was subbing, like if he was doing a wedding gig, I don't know.
Last minute wedding gig.
There's 80 tunes, so he's going to take 40 days, to prepare. I think he'd probably be reading a little too. But I think like it was just a really interesting thing to think about. Like if you're playing someone's original music, or you're showing up for an audition, or it's not a wedding thing, it's 8 tunes, or it's a 75-minute set. Man, if you can have that memorized. Like I play with this artist Dessa, and for her in the very beginning, there was a couple tunes that I still had to have on charts, and it was so stressful. And what happened is it would rob me of the joy of the reward of playing live.
Yes.
Yeah, because playing live is the reward. It's all like it is the culmination of all this work that we do, and all of like, what strings am I going to put on what cable am I like? It's
all gone,
reward.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
The dopamine response of playing the gig.
Yes.
It's not there because because when you think about it, like if I'm doing this for 90 minutes, like I'm not playing a gig.
I know.
I'm sat. You're not looking at the drummer. There's none of that. There's not that human interaction. Like I did a gig last weekend with a band I've played with loads, and this was like the first time the set has been all the way up here in muscle memory. And oh my God, it was just another
big difference.
It was just, I'm never going back. But you're absolutely right. You're so right about, the charts versus, I know the song. Okay, cool. Well, the muscle memory's there now. I'm not thinking about the part while I'm playing. What am I doing now? I'm making eye contact with the crowd. I'm keeping an eye on the drummer. Like, chorus 2, the drummer did this fill. I wonder if he'll do it again, the last chorus.
Yes.
Maybe I'll try and match him. Oh, he did! And you both have that little look of like, that was cool.
Yes,
but if you're glued to a chart, you don't get that magic, and you don't get the dopamine and the rush, and then you just get in your car on the way home and go, I got paid, but did I have fun? I don't really think I did.
My thing is that like when I play live, I'm the one that's moving the most on stage, and I play in a Nirvana and Foo Fighters tribute bands. And so it's fun. Pretty energetic and it's like not crazy complicated. So I feel like I can not brain off, obviously, but like I can.
Well, no, brain off. I'd call it brain off.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's just having fun, and if something doesn't go quite right, it's kind of okay. Like, and it works, and it's my connection with the audience that's driving it, and like I'll go out in the crowd, and have a good time and all this, and people come up to me afterwards. So occasionally they'll be like, "Oh, great play, great tone." Yeah. But most things they were like, oh, you were having the best time, you were having such a good time, and it just reflects. You're like a mirror, like what's happening on stage goes off to them as well. So
absolutely,
play that role more.
Imagine if you didn't know that music and you were staring at charts that you'd made on the floor. Like it would rob you of the joy of that experience, and it would rob the audience of it too. And it's like, man, when people are like, how do you memorize songs? It's like, dude, put in the time, because the moment you get on that stage, that is the reward. Like that's what we've been doing this for.
Yeah.
Right.
You've raised
put in the work.
Such a good point there. Like I'd like, if anything, I mean, it's the afternoon for you, but it's the evening for me. And then now I'm like, I really wish I didn't have to get up early tomorrow. Now I want to practice. Like, it's absolutely true. Is now a good time to move on to question number 2?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think so. Probably. 1 hour in.
It's an all-nighter, Johnny, and that's fine by me. Again, we have touched on some elements of this, and this is I'm really glad we're doing this question in particular, because this was something I was interested in as well. Being an MD, what is that, And also, as a follow-up question, how does that really differ from what I'm going to refer to as just playing bass?
Yes, great question. It depends on the gig. It depends on the artist. It depends on the genre, the situation. But what I can tell you how I have approached it in the various situations that I have been the MD, what it means is musical director. And it's just essentially like the person, broadly, it's the person that's going to answer the musical questions that the band might have, or it's the person that's going to be the liaison between the artist and the band. So like, let's say you're working with an artist that doesn't really know how to communicate the drum groove that they're looking for, but they're going to tell you, and you're going to put that through your musical filters and talk about the drum groove with the drummer. Or in the case of Eric Hutchinson, his musical director was an incredible guy named Elliot Blofis. He lives in Nashville. He's doing other things now. And when he stopped doing it, I became the MD. And what it is for Eric is he wants somebody to make sure that the band is ready to go when we step on stage. So everything's fly gigs. So I hire the band, or I suggest the band. So we're looking for a guitar player, or I bring a drummer friend of mine that's amazing, and I get together with them beforehand and we run through the set. I talk about, hey, Eric likes this one faster than the record. So let's just make sure, record's probably 152. Let's do it like 160. Oh, wow, 160 feels fast. I know, but that's how he likes it. And so, right? Like,
I know, but man up.
Yeah. It's all this thing of helping the artist have the best experience possible. Right. And so if something isn't working, Eric looks to me. Like if he's like, the groove isn't quite right, he looks to me. And then I say, well, what if we try this? Or what if we do this kind of thing? For Eric, it's also tuning his guitar before the set so he doesn't come out on stage and do it himself. I do that. It's like making sure that the stage is all torn down at the end of the night. And I'm like, okay, we got everything cool. Now, it's not that for every artist, but for Eric, that's part of it, right? It's helping him think about setting up the show and the set list and how should we do a bow at the end of the night? What side of the stage should we get off when we exit? Like, it's so many things. But I also did it at a church for a long time called Eaglebrook Church, which was part of CCM culture, which is like rock, kind of like rock and roll church.
Hillsong, things like that. Okay, yeah.
Yes. And in that world, it's very different. It's me setting up Ableton sessions. It's running the rehearsal. It's sending out emails to the players saying, hey, I've got, hey, to the keyboard player, I've got keys 3 and 4 in stems, but if you can do kind of an amalgamation of keys 1 and 2 live, that will be cool. And here are those stems. So, or you just tell me what key part do you want to do that live. I'll put the others in stems, right? It's completely different depending on your, the gig and the artist. Yes. And I guess I'm not organized in all aspects of my life, but I'm pretty musically organized. I like people. I like seeing a band get better. I like running a rehearsal. I like making suggestions while trying to be professional and encouraging. I'm never like, that sucked. I don't lead that way. If I lead a band, it's like, I hired you for a reason. I always tell people that I hired you for a reason. I hired you for your instincts and your taste and your musicality. And if anything needs to change, I'll tell you, but just please play your instincts.
Yeah, I picked you. Thing. I picked you for a reason.
Yeah.
I want you to be. There's a great interview with. Is it Michelle Rowe? Is that her name? I feel like I'm gonna go Rachel Rowe, something like that. Panic at the Disco bass player.
Nicole.
Yeah,
Nicole Rowe.
That's the one. Panic at the Disco. A lot of it was recorded with a pick. She is a fingerstyle player. She came to the first rehearsal having learned all of the music with a pick. And Brendan Urie looks at her in the first rehearsal and goes, playing with a pick. And she goes, well, yeah, all your songs are with a pick. And all Brendan Urie said to her was, yeah, but I hired you. You play with your fingers. You play what you want. You know, like kind
so
of like
cool.
she's still playing the part, but you know, if something's like, I don't know, straight eighth notes, instead of going down picking with a pick, she's doing the, you know, the 1 and 2 hand with the fingers, because that's what they wanted. And I think that's really good from your perspective as a band leader, because I've done lots of, an MD, because I was wondering, is there a difference between an MD and a band leader? And I'm feeling like there's a lot of overlap, because I've been
definitely.
got hired by a company a few years ago to be the band leader and the bass player for a run of shows.
Yes.
And it was, a lot of the roles were similar to this.
Yep.
The issue I had was we were all the artist. It was a band, but it was a singer and then a hired-in backing band.
Yes.
And I was the band leader. But that was never really hammered in. So, well, it wasn't it wasn't hammered in by the people it wasn't sort of nailed down by the people above all of us.
Right.
Which basically meant that when I was introduced as the band leader, the singer laughed at me. Which was a bit like, because she was like, well, they was like, you know, I do all these gigs, it's my name on the poster, blah 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 blah. And I think what didn't happen and what should have happened was the organisation that was in charge of this band should have said, no, absolutely, this person is not your boss. This is the person that basically, like, when there's a problem, you don't turn right and look at the guitarist, you turn left and look at him.
Right. Yes.
He's the one who's overseeing this kind of like this problem, or making sure that he's the
he's here for you.
Yeah, but that wasn't really communicated. So
Right.
there was a lot of annoying situations where basically I'm trying to lead a rehearsal because I was told you need to make sure this is your responsibility. You're being paid a bit more.
Yep.
The drummer and guitarist. And then found out the singer was on a lot more than me, but that's not the point. Always the way.
Always the case,
bass. But there was a constant, professional, like, butting of heads, basically. Just trying to, like, get through that. But it's interesting to hear that that is what an MD actually is. Because
it's like a
didn't really
project
know.
manager, essentially, isn't it? For, like,
Yeah,
every
that's a good
element
word for it,
of the band.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of
so
my day job is like, essentially, like, digital marketing manager, and it's like managing websites as well. This is completely off topic, but and it reminds me of that, because it's like you're managing people who are very differently skilled to you in other areas, who are amazing, and you hire them for that. You know, I want you to do that, and it's like realizing people's skills and honing them. You know,
and giving them enough freedom to to do it. Yeah.
And I think the best leaders are the leaders, the band leaders, the MDs. And I agree, Chris, that it's feels like synonyms, right? The best people that do it are the people that lead from a place of,
like, from the middle.
They're just there to support.
Yeah.
You know, they're there to support and to say, like, hey, we hired you, do your thing. And here's sort of the guidelines. Here's what the client, the artist is looking for, but you're going to crush it. And to start with that, I've been under some leadership. I've had some MDs that are really the other way of kind of like, got to do it like this. And, or you got to get with the record and make sure that you're, I don't know, they're just coming at it from a little bit more of like a fear space. That's not my style of leadership at all. But I really enjoy it when I get to do it. It's extra work, but I really do enjoy it. And then once you've established relationship, like with Eric Hutchinson, I've been with him for 10 years. He trusts me. So, when we need another drummer, the drummer that we usually use can't do it. He's like, I don't care. Just pick them.
Yeah. Whoever you Ian pick, I trust.
That's why I get to get one of my homies.
Yeah.
And it's the best. It's really fun to get to that level with an artist where they just trust you implicitly.
That is goals, because I've done some session work for people who I don't want that.
Yeah, sure.
Shall we go on to the tone section next? I feel like
let's do tones.
Do some tones. I think we'll. I think we've covered so much more than which is amazing.
I mean, we can choose to include or edit this out, but it's like, this is just selfishly, this is good for me. Like,
oh yeah.
It's just nice to talk. It's just nice to talk to a guy who does what I do for a living, but has just been doing it more.
Oh, sure.
And be like, oh yeah, okay, I see where you're coming from, and then been like, oh great, So it's not just me.
Oh, I know, man. It feels, it's very like you feel seen, right? I really feel that way when I do interviews too, like with SBL or podcasts. Like, when Amos came on and I was talking to him about, like getting the gig with Taylor Swift, and it felt like, oh, it's so rare that you're actually kind of like one-on-one with someone that has experienced some of these same things.
And also the episode with absolutely, and the episode with I'm so sorry, I forgot his name, the Weezer bass player.
Oh, Scott Schreiner.
Talking about how he got the gig, and he was like, he thought, should I show up in like glasses and a sweater? He was like, nah, leather jacket. I didn't shower. It's so good, and those are bits of information that like I cherish, because it's nice to know, like, oh, I'm on the right track. What I'm doing is what that guy was doing 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, or 20. It's like, okay, because you fly blind as a musician, and
that's never the bit you see,
exactly
online. You don't see that
and no
part
one
of it.
sits Jonny down to run and goes, "This is how you make a YouTube channel," and it's just like, yeah, off you pop.
They should.
It's good. They should. Oh my god! But no, you don't get to see that part. You just get to see, like, I don't know, if you take Amos for example, you get to see Amos playing in that stadium on the Taylor Swift tour to 4.2 gajillion people.
Yeah, right.
That film is so good, by the way.
Oh, it's so cool. I know.
I'm seeing Taylor
in. I'm so jealous.
Next year in Cardiff.
I
can't wait.
I legit want tickets now. I will happily say, not a Swiftie in any way, shape, or form. I went to see the film with my girlfriend and her friend, and I was like, no, I'm aware of Amos. I'd listened to the SBL. I'd seen his YouTube videos. Like, obviously Taylor Swift is good. That's not really up for debate, really.
Sure.
So I thought, no, I'm going to watch it. Why not? And I sat down, and literally, I think we'd got about 20 minutes in or something like that, and I poked my girlfriend Jen in the arm and went, "This is really good." Like, as a like ignoring any of the visuals or anything like that. I was like, as a guy who does music, as like a musician, I was like, this standard of musicianship. Oh my God! Like, it's
literal
insane.
World class.
It's
absolutely.
It's heavy. Yep. I mean, they're so good. And the layers of leadership in that band are really deep too. Like, there's an MD that's not on the road that oversees and essentially watches game tape. That watches all the shows and then makes suggestions. And then there's like MDs on the ground on each side of the stage. So there's like two sides, right? And there's an MD on either side.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4, 5, 6 people on each side, isn't there?
Right.
Yeah.
And they're all just amazing monsters. But I mean, just really quick before we move on to tones, just one more thing about relationship that is just so interesting. So I start to make content. And in the world of bass, when I started to make content, I was nobody. Nobody knew who I was. And Amos started to pay attention to me really early on because I was making bass content. And then when the pandemic happened, he reached out to me and was like, "Hey, man, I don't have a gig anymore because of the pandemic. I need to start doing videos."
Yeah.
And he was like, would you mind if I like took a lesson from you? And we talked about lighting and cameras and stuff. And I was like, holy crap. Because I was well aware of him.
Not who you know, it's who knows you.
Yes. And so I said, Amos, dude, anytime. And so we ended up becoming kind of chummy. And we started to have calls occasionally. I brought him on this other thing. A friend of mine, Jonathan Marin, was doing these like Zoom calls with bass players. We brought Amos on as a guest. And I gave Amos all of my knowledge about recording and, and all of that. And then it's just like giving, right, of yourself and of the particular skill set that you have is never a bad idea, right? Because then once everything comes back, Amos is like, "Hey man, I will never forget what you did for me during lockdown. Do you and your family want to come to the show?" And I'm like, "Are you?" And like, now I'm a hero in my daughter's eyes, like unreal, like it's
that is such a good point. Like, do you remember, how you're not tied in your room right now? Do you remember when I got you free Taylor Swift tickets? Yeah.
So you
bass players are cool. They are cool.
Yeah. Shut up, Dad. It's not affairs.
I mean, and it's not to say that like you do things so that you get tickets to the show
no,
or whatever.
No,
it's just
of
like,
course.
Man, I was so excited to be interfacing with him in the beginning, right? I mean, so excited. And I would call him a dear friend now. And it's just because of that connection, the spirit of like, I'm doing something, someone asks about it, and I'm going to help them do it as well. I think on social media, we take a lot, we ask, we say, buy my thing. Sign
Follow
up
me,
thing,
like
come
this.
to my show, right?
Yeah.
You're always selling.
Buy my t-shirts.
Yeah. And I mean, I do that too, but I also try to temper it with giving of like, hey, have you ever thought about music this way? Here's a thing that because I think it gives back in ways that you don't see down the road that I think are like, can be life-changing and important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's like your content, and then say like the wider SBL content as well. There is an ask. Absolutely,
Yes.
The ask is please join the site, and give us your money in exchange for yada yada yada. But at the same time though, there's a massive YouTube channel with here's how to play like XYZ. Your own Instagram is like, here's how I got this tone. Right. And it's broken down in a very, very simple way. Or here's what I'm taking to the gig. There's a lot of give. There's an ask.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we all have bills to pay and things like that. There's an ask. There's a follow me, engage me with my social media, buy this, and up to that. But I would say the ratio of give versus ask, I feel like there's more give than ask.
Well, people need a reason to stick around. People need a reason.
Exactly. All me and Jonny do is just ask, please.
or like at least if there is an ask, hopefully the content was valuable nonetheless. Like that's what I always hope. That it's not just like, like, hey, I have stuff to buy it. Like, no, I'm gonna, right. I'm still going to talk to you about how I do things. And for the longest time too, for me, there was no ask the longest time until I started to do presets, until I started to work with SBL, obviously, and being a part of that ask. But for the longest time, I was just trying to build audience and just like give for the longest time. And then I think that you build up a certain amount of trust. And then when there is an ask that you feel is worthwhile, like I really think that these presets are good, and so I'm like, hey, you don't have to, but they are available. But if you want to support this and you have this hardware, right, then like it seems like a reasonable ask.
And that you must get
give ask is a very popular sales technique. Go on, Jonny.
Yeah. You must get like hundreds of messages of people asking you about preset stuff on HX Stomp, and things like that. And it's like, well, okay, I'll give it back to like everyone in that way.
Yeah. I mean, I did. People were like, hey, do you have presets? And the longest time I was like, I'm not, it's just, you can make them yourself. I'll just tell you how I made them. But then someone told me, they gave me this analogy. They're like, okay, Ian, you have to sell these presets. You know why? I said, why? He said, you could watch a YouTube video of changing the oil in your car, and you could get down on the garage floor and you could do it. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, but do you? Will you? I said, I do not, and I will not. I am happy to pay the money for that service. And he said, well, a lot of people feel that way about effects. They don't want a program. They want a sound that they can pull up immediately, and they don't have to want to spend their time doing that. They hate it.
Yeah.
Why not provide that service?
I guess this bleeds over into the tone section anyway, but me and Jonny talked about this when your preset pack came out. We had an episode and we mentioned it, and we were like, we did say there's two pathways to this. There's the people who are like, I don't want the process. I think Ian sound good. I want to sound good. Here's credit card, and it's like, we'll download it, and it's going to get you. It's going to get you there in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, your technique might be terrible or something like that, but it's going to get you in that ballpark, in that zip code. But then other people, like I would say, I fall into this second category. I would be infinitely more interested, and this is probably why I used to subscribe to Masterclass, if you're familiar with that.
Yes, of course.
I won a membership to SBL and had a year's membership a few years ago.
Hell yeah.
We can get into that, but we do have a lot to talk about. I would be more interested, like you had a course about some session things where you went through a couple of different preset tones. You had an amazing course where you and a drummer that I forgot the name of,
Steve Gould,
talked about kind of like how to talk to a drummer, which has been very valuable to me. Yeah. But I would be much more interested in, even if I have to pay for it, for example, I want the guy who made the preset going, well, here's how I came to this conclusion. Because I might get to I might get halfway through your explanation and go, oh, I could do this. And then
Right.
something that has nothing to do with here's how to make your bass sound like a mini Moog. It's like,
Right.
yeah, but I got halfway and then I realized how you set fuzz is what I needed to know to do
Yes.
this. And that's more interesting for me, but I'm a nerd. So I don't mind knowing that part.
That's more interesting to me too, actually.
Yeah, but some people don't want that. So that's why the Kemper is so popular, like preset packs, and the same with you and all these kind of things. But it's good to hear that it's more interesting to you.
Well, I have wanted to make that course for a long time. I'm not going to make it on SBL because I don't want to do we at SBL don't want to do like a proprietary hardware course of like, here's how to program the HX Stomp.
Because it's so specific.
Yeah, but I probably will do something like that on my own like, hey, here's how I think about programming, but we will do some effect stuff. It's just down the road. I am a professional procrastinator with projects that serve my own need. And I have a lot of imposter syndrome and weird shame about it that we don't need to talk. I mean, we can, but I don't know if it's interesting, but I put off the preset thing for a very long time. And then finally I had some friends that were like, you need to do this. And you like, please just do it. And it'll be the start. Then you can do courses. And so, yeah, I plan on doing some courses around like how I think about programming. But the preset pack stuff was the easiest thing for me to just like get out the door first. And it's been cool. And if anybody listening has bought them and supported, I thank you very much. I hope you like them. I put a lot of work and time into them, and no one cares about that. But I will say that I use them. I use them every day on things. And I mean, we can break down this. We've got a tune, and I can play along, and I'll show you 3 sounds that I use with an artist. I use my own sounds that I've made for this particular artist.
Putting your money where your mouth is. It's like that classic thing of like, musician brings out Squier Signature Series product, and then you see them playing a custom shop guitar instead. At least you don't do that.
Yeah.
Hey,
wait a minute.
Hey, hold on.
You said this was good enough for you.
You
He lied to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that brings us very nicely onto our next segment then.
Cool.
Let's hear some of these tones. For those at home, this is a section called That Tone You Own. It's where we ask our guests each week to bring along a tone that they either consider to be their own or maybe something that they're just enjoying at the moment. We have got a track to listen to now from Dessa, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Ian, I think you're going to play along for some bits, aren't we?
I figured I'd do it live. Just make this happen live.
Oh, nice.
I think about my voice on the bass. There's 2 sounds. If I'm not playing just regular bass, right? I think about, there's 2 sounds that I really love, and it's sort of trying to, one lane is sounding like a synthesizer. So like these kind of big, fat notes. I was a huge Bjork fan growing up. So like Hyper Ballad off of Post, like these just big sort of synthesizer sounds. So that's octave pedal into drive into chorus. And then, so that's going to be the basis for this tune. So that's the first sound you'll hear. I'll show you all these sounds individually, and then I'll put them in context. And it's like a 3-minute tune, and hopefully that will like make them all land. So that's sound number 1. Then I find I have this duality. I grew up in northwestern Montana, parents listening to country music. I also love to play with a pick, and this sounds to me
My Friend of Misery.
yeah. I mean, like, and it's so interesting. Like you say Metallica, and for me, this sound was like Glenn Campbell. Like,
oh, absolutely. Yeah, it is also worth noting with a very, very, very hearty disclaimer. All roads lead to Metallica with me, and if they don't lead to Metallica, they lead to Nickelback.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. I mean, I love that you put the flag in the ground for Nickelback. I always say like everybody hates Nickelback to the tune of like 579 million records sold. Like
I know it's like the 11th biggest selling artist of all time.
Exactly. Yes.
And it's so good live, But anyway, stop me now.
No,
Stop me
it's
now.
all good. It's all good. This sounded, I call
Yeah, very.
and it's basically like,
man.
yeah, it's like spring reverb into tremolo. And that the order of that is very important. Like the spring reverb gets affected by the trem. And to me, I can just play 2 notes with this. And I'm just like, take me away. So,
but you're saying so much with 2 notes. You're saying so much with 2 notes.
Yeah.
It's like was that a fifth? Was it something else?
Yep,
okay, but yeah. Oh, music.
Right, here we go.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's like, but with that, the 2 notes, the interval and the effects, it's like you have immediately set a texture. You've set a mood. It's almost like I know where I am immediately. Yes. Whereas if you just played a DI, you'd be like, oh, it's a fifth. Cool.
Yeah.
It's how I do it.
Imagine that, right? Like if I got rid of that sound and I played with my fingers and I played that same thing.
It still sounds good.
It doesn't conjure though, right? It doesn't like prompt.
It's not making me feel anything.
Right.
You know?
No.
Yeah. There's something.
Already, I'm picturing something.
Yeah. There's something about the sounds. You know? It's just crazy. So that sound for me, I could play it all day and get lost. So that's the second sound you'll hear. And then the third sound is a sound that I use not a lot, but sometimes it's really fun and appropriate. I call it Decepticon because I'm a kid of the 80s. I grew up watching Transformers. But this is octave into fuzz into like a vocal filter. And out of context, it sounds kind of ridiculous, but in context, I think
but in context, though, I'm picturing like you're playing a song with like a certain part or whatever. Let's say it's long notes, and you're keeping it relatively clean. We're coming into chorus 3.
Yeah,
and it's like the drummer's going to step it up a notch anyway. Yeah, the guitarist is going to put on the little drive before the big drive. Yeah, that just. The singer is going, okay, chorus 3 is up the octave. Yeah. And you're like, okay, here we go. It's halftime.
Yeah.
And then you hit it, it's just like...
Well, you're not far off. This is this hip-hop artist from Minneapolis. Actually, she splits her time between New York and London, but her name's Dessa. She's amazing. And I played on her most recent record, but this is a song that I didn't play on, but I play this with her live. It's just a fun way to demonstrate these 3 very different sounds. And I thought it would be perfect for a Tone You Own. So here we go. I'm going to play you this. This is Fire Drills by the great Dessa. So we're going to start with octave first.
I've been Wendy, living with the Lost Boys. You spent as a decade on the convoy. Moves every night to prove we were something. Got confused if it was from a tool that we were running. I've seen Gibraltar, I've seen the Taj Mahal, Soweto, Hagia Sophia, Chef Shaolin paints the walls blue. I've played to full rooms, I've played the full 2. Burning through the bottoms of a pair of new boots. Cut my hair, take my tits down. A woman on her own must be from out of town. Funny you don't know the concessions that you're making until you catalog them. And by then they're many, and you'll battle hard and heat makes it with the asphalt. Keepsakes and parking tickets on the dashboard. I'm here to file my report. There's the vixen of the wolf pack. Till patient 0, he can have his rib back. You can count my ribs, count you can count my ribs. You can't be too broke to break. As a woman, always something left to take. So you shouldn't try to stay too late or talk to strangers. Look too long, go too far out of range. Cause angels can't watch everybody all the time. Stay close, hems low, safe inside. That formula works if you can live it. But it works by putting half the world off limits. You can count my ribs. Count my... You can count my ribs. We don't say go out and be brave. Now we say be careful, stay safe. In any given instance, that don't hurt, but it sinks in like stilettos and soft earth. Like the big win is not a day without an incident. I beg to differ with it. I think a woman's worth, I think that she deserves a better line of work than motherfucking vigilance. Don't give me vigilance. definition. You can't make a difference if the big ambition is simply standing sentry to your innocence. That's not a way to live. That can't be what a woman is. That gives her nothing to aspire to. What that is, it's just a life of running fire drills. 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 Running fire drills.
Very
that
nice.
That was just 3
Hey.
minutes of solid stank face and like, it's nodding, and then
Right on. I mean, it's such
No,
a fun
it's-
payoff too for when that last sound.
yeah,
You know, that's so fun, man.
Chris and I
It's
lost
so
it.
it's so good as well because it's like as we all know, the highest compliment you can receive as a musician is when another musician looks at you and goes,
Yeah. Oh,
like, absolutely just like
With a
screw
mouth-
your face up, like
The mouth turns into like a rainbow.
yeah,
yeah, exactly.
it's like that is
Exactly, man.
disgusting.
Yeah, well,
You
thanks.
should be ashamed
So
of yourself.
it's like getting to do that is my dream, honestly. Like I've always loved hip hop, electronic music, rock. She's kind of a combo of all of that in a really
Yeah.
interesting way. Her production team is incredible. This guy, Andy Thompson, who's an unbelievable producer and a guy that makes some of the beats named Laserbeak, just incredible. It's like Laserbeak and Andy Thompson. It's just like the best production team ever. And then I get to join them live. And then we do, you know, on this, she just put out a new record and I'm on that as well. So I could not be more happy playing that kind of music because it really honors the sounds that I love. It's like finding an artist that likes that. You know what I mean? It's wild. So it's really
It isn't
fun.
just like, oh, can we just have a DI and the tone rolled off, please? Like it
No,
allows
it's
you
not that at
to
all.
use effects as like tools essentially to get you
Yes,
the expression
totally,
out of the
yeah.
sound that you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're
Nothing-
necessary. Like if I played all that dry, it would be so weird.
Yeah,
You know?
you're absolutely right because it's like at no point when you even at the end with the big sound, at no point was I listening to that and going, yeah, did you have to do that? You know, like
It's a bit much.
Cool.
like
Yeah.
we've all been there. We all know a bass player who uses too many effects,
Sure.
like but too many. And
Right.
every time, or the overplay, or like you know, there's just no restraint or self control in the
Right.
expression. We all know someone, and that's fine. They'll get over it eventually. But the
Yeah,
point I was
Chris.
gonna, and if you don't know someone, it's you.
It's me.
Yeah, it's
totally
me. I'm the problem.
I'm the
It's me.
problem. Yep.
But the point I was going to make was at no point did I feel like you were spoiling it. You know, at no point was I like, yeah, but did he have to do that? Yeah.
Cool.
You know, there was no like even with like the reverb, like there'd be a lot of people who would go like, spit the drink out, reverb on bass. You know, like
Yeah.
all that, and none of that was there. I would like to talk about the tone for a second because
Sure.
I have a nerdy question that I've always
Please.
meant to ask. So we're going from the bass, I assume,
Yeah.
into the pedal board. It's
Yes.
the Origin compressor first,
That
or
was-
is this straight into the HX Stomp?
This is my small travel board. It's tiny. It's the mono light. I just have 3 pedals on it. I
Okay.
first go into
Yeah.
the Origin stacked, which
Okay,
is
yeah.
that compressor, which I love, but I don't have a ton of comp on it. I just really like
Okay.
the way it sounds. I'm a big blend, like dry blend compress guy too. So I
Yeah.
squeeze it hard. And then I also blend in dry. That's
Yeah.
going then into the HX and the HX is doing all the heavy lifting in terms of like drives or octave, or in this
Okay.
instance, all the sounds that you heard were from the HX Stomp.
And
And
what
then out
we're
of that-
hearing before we
Yes,
jump,
sorry.
because I'm pretty sure you're gonna mention the I'm sorry, it's the thingy DI, isn't it? Not the Noble. You're using the
Oh, the Jad
the
Freer.
pedal. Yes, the pedal after this that you're gonna
Yeah.
mention. Before
Yep.
you do though, I was going to ask because I haven't seen your presets. Johnny owns a HX Stomp. I I don't. I spent 5
Yes.
times the money and got a quad Cortex.
Yeah.
Whether it's 5 times as good, I'm yet to decide.
Yes,
But inside that,
Yeah.
is there an amp and cab sim? Is there not?
No. And
Okay.
I have,
Okay. All right. Okay.
I mean, yes, there are, but I
But
don't
but for
use
this
them very
example.
often.
Okay.
So yeah, for me, I probably, here I can show you, typically my basic sound is just a bit of compression and then really nothing else. And then if I do any cab stuff, so I have an amp, like a SVT dual cab preset that I call Ultimate Amp because I'm an asshole. But basically, it's just my favorite kind of settings of an SVT through an 810 and then a 112 as well. And I really like this sound a lot.
Yeah. It does sound good. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be fuzzy. But then it can also, like I have on that preset also an octave and then a fuzz, and so it, gets you in.
Oh, I wonder what that is.
Yeah, right. Gets you kind of into that like amp sim territory. But I find that I don't typically use that thing with artists. I'm pretty much like a clean DI sound guy, and then stacking effects on top of that. So like on my just main regular patch, right, that is just clean, but it has compression, it has a bit of a tube, like it has my Noble emulation.
Okay,
now,
and is that
just did a thing where
yes, they did, yeah.
Yes, 3.7 has a Noble in it. I get it a different way. I've compared them both. I prefer mine, but theirs is great because it only takes up 1 block. Mine takes up 2. I'll tell you what, I mean, I'll show it to you without that stuff. So if I take away the goodness of that.
So what are we hearing right now? We're hearing the origin
nothing.
The origin into the HX Stomp. Or is everything off?
Everything is off, right?
Okay.
Right? But if I turn on all the stuff, the preset stuff, the Noble, and the origin.
Sounds great.
Yeah. I think it's just a little bit beefier. And then from there, I'm adding things. I'm adding octave.
Okay.
Right.
And I was going to say, when we leave the HX Stomp,
yes.
am I correct in saying we go somewhere else before we, because I have a follow-up question after that, but in the words of the great Axl Rose, where do we go now?
Where do we go now? Where do we go? I have a big board that on that it's Noble, but on my travel board, it's the Jad Freer Copper DI, which is like an Italian.
Yeah.
I like it, but it's almost like it's too much control for me. I almost never use EQ, or I very rarely use EQ, or like a ton of it. So I have maybe lows boosted by 1 or 2 dB.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. That's all normally my sign of a good product is when it just needs like 1 o'clock or like dialing back a tiny bit. That's the sweet spot.
Myself and Jonny went to the Ashdown factory and we tried a product that isn't out yet.
Yes.
And the lovely people there were showing us all the different the configurations.
The stuff
and
it could
honestly,
do.
me and Jonny just kept going, nah, leave it at 12, leave it at 12. Like everything on this product was set at 12 o'clock with like 1 little button pressed, which was not even doing that much realistically. And we were both like, I said to the managing director, point blank range, I'm buying one. Like, as soon as I'm allowed to,
amazing.
I'm selling the equivalent product I already own immediately, and I'm buying this. This is the best.
I love it.
I've ever heard. And again,
cool.
just all at 12.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll agree, Jonny. It was like instant. This is brilliant. This is actually brilliant.
I actually, though, think that speaks more to you guys than it does to the product. I think that's about your hands and your brain and your heart.
Oh, I don't know.
I do though. I think it's like, I mean, I don't know, man, I don't know how you guys feel, but when I plug into any amp, I don't feel like I am extremely EQing anything, whether it's Aguilar, whether it's Ampeg, whether it's whatever it is, Ashdown. I feel like I kind of put knobs at noon And then if I have the gain staging right and I'm playing kind of supportive and soft, I feel like I can get a sound that I like out of most things.
That's really interesting, actually, because
I don't know.
That was my whole approach to my YouTube channel. Was like I wanted to demo affordable gear mostly because I've always been in that world and always felt like I can get pretty good sounds out of this affordable gear. I feel like a lot of it is in those fingertips. So like, and I wanted to try and showcase that. Not saying that I'm an amazing player and like, oh, it's all through my hands. This can sound good, but like, you can make affordable stuff sound great. You know, sound good.
Yes, and you don't need to max out EQs on fancy gear. The more I do it, the more pared down I get. I used to have a giant pedal board with tons of stuff on it. And then I have this little pedal board that has 5 things on it that I really like. And then I have this little guy with just 3 things. And I think, honestly, my next move is I'm just going to do a stomp. There's a Pedalnetics makes this really interesting thing where he builds a little housing for it that gives you DI, like an XLR out. So you run the, output 1 and 2. So you get a line out to an amp if you want 1/4 inch, and then XLR out and some additional switching. And I mean, I don't know. I find that sometimes like the very simple thing, while still having the ability to play, the sounds that I need for artists and stuff, I find that having something very simple, I don't want to have a bunch of EQ and parametric. I just don't need it. I want to make it happen with my hands, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Ian and I don't need any effects. So I'm good enough just by myself.
No, I just,
Is that because your wife has bullied you?
Like, probably.
Watching you drag like a Pedal Train Pro and a huge flight case and like a rack and everything. And I've heard the story about like the big SVT and all these kind of things. But if anything, I actually think like I love like the flex of like, yeah, man, it's just like a Sans amp.
I'm so into small pedal boards at the minute. I'm so into the idea of small pedal boards and having as little to do when I get to the gig as possible. At the minute, my whole rig is in a flight case and it's just like, bam, one plug, done.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd love to do that with a pedal board as well. I've just built one with Warwick.
Amazing.
With the rock board and load of Origin pedals, and that is meant to be just an all-in-one rig. It can power a cab, it can go in front of the house.
Dude. I've seen that amp power amp. I've seen that build. That's a good looking build, man.
The Ant is unreal.
Is it?
I use the Ant all the time now.
Very cool.
200 watts is, depending on the gig, I'd like a bit more. Or if I have a PA for the gig, if it's a small gig with a PA and upwards, it's more than enough. It sounds great. I have the Quad Cortex can be overkill, but you can also, if you run it simply, it's fine. It's like if you have a Ford Mustang, and it's like, it can do 200 miles an hour, but it's also not bad at like 40. A Ford Mustang probably isn't.
Well, I mean,
but this one is. But
driving a fast car slow is awesome. It's a flex.
Big flex. Big flex. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I travel a lot too, so I fly a lot with Eric, and I fly out to do stuff with Scott. And for me, I love flying carry-on only. So I always am flying with a bass and a backpack. I'm like a real weird, like minimal travel is like a big game for me. So I always am flying the tiniest board I can for the gig, bass, and then just very minimal, like the clothes that I need packed in a really, like excellent cube that's like goes into the
like you got the vacuum seal bag.
He's wearing every pair of pants.
Yeah.
Got
6 jackets on.
I love that. So for me, like checking a giant pedal board, I've never been that guy ever.
I don't want to be that guy. Like I take more gear to a gig in a car than you do. And I'm like, this really should be the other way around. I'm like, but I need a backup bass just in case. I bring a bass with flats and a bass with rounds. Come on, man. Come on.
I don't do any of that. I bring one bass always, unless it's a gig where I need like, there's a different tuning or something. There's a band I play in that. But
yeah.
man, I'm always, it's weird. I just roll one bass. I don't bring any backup cables. It is absolutely going to bite me in the ass someday.
I was just
it's
about
absolutely
to say.
going to bite me in the ass. I don't bring anything else. Like, it's weird. But whatever. So far, so good. You know.
It's still
Touch
going
touch
strong.
wood.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Incredible. Well, I think we're going to put you through your paces now, Ian.
Hit me.
We're going to go through some real quick fire questions now.
I can't
okay?
wait. I'm gonna adhere to it.
Absolutely. We'll be here. I can kick you from the school, I think, manually. So you'll be gone. Chris, I'm going to start off.
Yes,
Would you like to jump in and we'll tag team this baby?
absolutely. You go first, and then
Amazing.
you like left and then right. Yeah.
All right, let's
I feel
go.
like we need the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire music. Like,
Do they have that? Do they have that in the US? They must do.
Oh yeah, of course.
yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, Ian, just give us a drone on the bass.
Yeah.
With the
that was-
reverb, please. Thank you.
Oh, that was
sorry.
much too chill.
Here, let's
What
see.
preset will I use for this drone note?
Yeah, right.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
There we go. Okay, do it again.
Yep.
Ian Martin Allison. Pick or fingers?
Pick.
I can.
Pick.
Ian Martin Allison. Active or passive?
Passive.
Ian Martin Allison. Rounds or flats?
Flats.
Ian Martin Allison. IEMs, media monitors, or wedges?
Wedges.
He doesn't
Seven.
want the click.
I'm the same. No, he's having the click just through the wedge. So, screw you.
Boop, boop, boop.
I love binary.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
Okay,
Okay.
Johnny, you're
yes.
to serve.
This is my go. Ian Martin Allison. 4-string or 5-string? A quick answer. Very good.
Ian Martin Allison. P or J?
J.
Oh,
And let me just say, the
Oh.
renaissance of the P bass. I tried to be the P bass guy. I really went for it. And I was like, yeah, this is what I do now. A P bass guy. I've always felt more comfortable on a J. Sorry. Next question.
It's those slender hands, man. Ian Martin Allison. Desert Island bass.
Don't
It
you dare
is.
explain yourself.
1978 Fender jazz bass in the color that if you don't like, I don't trust you. Antigua.
Desert
Very good.
Island Antigua. Beautiful.
Mhm. That's right.
Ian Martin Allison. Drone note, please. Thank you so much. Best bass effect.
The humble octave pedal.
It's doing a good role right now, you know. So it's
I must say, it
serving.
really is.
It's
It
helping
really
out
is.
the podcast production right now.
It really
It's
is
serving.
pushing it.
Yeah,
We have to put you in as a production role. Can you come back next week?
yeah. Every time, please.
I'll be here. I'll just be producer behind the scenes.
Just
triggering
sat
stuff.
on the call,
Yeah.
says nothing for an hour and a half, and then just goes boom, 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 boom.
This is what you were made for. Okay. Back to seriousness now. Ian Martin Allison. Unpopular bass opinion.
Unpopular bass opinion is that the P bass is the best thing for everything.
Oh, after
Very
picking
well.
a jazz. Wow.
Well, sorry, I that the P bass isn't the best thing for
Oh,
everything. That's-
Wait, isn't the best thing for everything?
yeah,
I was going to
Everybody's
say,
like, "Oh, the P bass is the best thing for everything." It's fine for some things. It's fine. It's great for some things. It's not the best thing for everything. At least not in my world.
you might be right. I was going to say, well, that's the safest answer ever.
Yeah.
Okay, 10th and
probably-
final question.
Probably the most
I'm
important
ready.
question.
And probably the
Let's-
most
let's
important.
do
Now,
that.
I will Now, before we jump into this very quickly, I have an answer for this question. Me and Jonny had an argument about this yesterday. I would like to give my answer, but I will let Jonny decide if he's going to let me. So, the final question.
Okay.
Ian Martin Allison. Which Star Wars character would be the best at bass?
Which Star Wars character would be the best at bass? It would be Mace Windu.
Ooh. Okay,
Jedi
right.
Master Mace Windu. I will tell you, it's because the purple lightsaber, purple bass had to go with Mace.
He would have like bad
Okay.
motherfucker like etched into the back like he does on his lightsaber, like on his bass.
That's not a bad point. Now, because we're going to use this, we're going to ask this question with other guests.
Yeah.
Jonny, are we going to give our answer or not bother?
I feel like we have to. I feel like this is the
Because
first time we've asked this question.
we argued hard on this.
Yeah.
And
Guys.
I stand by my answer, and I will not budge on it. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
As a man who's 45, I think you might be quite annoyed at this answer. I think
can't wait.
the best Star Wars character who would be the best at bass, and I'm not kidding, Jango Fett.
Oh.
Django
What
Fred.
was that?
More like,
Would you like me to explain why?
please try.
I'll make it very simple. Like any good bass player, he was commissioned to do a job, and he did it.
That's true. He followed through with his role. That is
Absolutely.
100%.
He
Sorry.
said, we would like you to be the blueprint for a clone army. What did he do? I mean, your choice cut my choice's head off. And that's not the point. The brief had been completed. The gig was done. He got his head chopped off in the car park at the end of the gig.
Yeah.
To be fair, classic bass player. You know, that was only going to happen to us.
Bass player.
You do
So true.
what you were paid to do, and you're gone. So mine, our heated debate came about of who would be best because I was on Team Boba. Just because
The
it's
unloved child.
classic bass player, to just ooze so much cool, and could be useless, but they're respected and people love it just because they just turn up and they just look incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
that's our role.
True,
that
but my
pitch
choice
killer
didn't
in
have
the back.
Absolutely, but my choice didn't have a terrible Disney Plus show. So
Oh, shots fired.
Yeah.
Agreed.
shots fired.
How about when all those kids showed up on those little candy scooters?
Yeah,
Was it
get out
bummer?
of town.
Oh.
Get out of town. Saw a fan theory about that. That show would have been much better if they swapped out Boba Fett and gave the exact same show to the Marshal from The Mandalorian.
Oh, I know. It totally would have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
we killed it.
we did get Flea in that series. Oh no, that was Obi-Wan. He was in Obi-Wan.
Thundercat.
Yeah,
Thundercat we had in
Thundercat. Yeah,
Man, yeah. I feel like we could just do a 2-hour podcast about Star Wars because
oh mate, bring Batman into this and it'll be 5 hours easily.
amazing. Amazing.
If we have a Star Wars spin-off, Star Wars based podcast, it should be called It's a Slap.
It's amazing.
This is
I
great
love it.
banter. It really is.
You guys, I bought a strap from Couch, which is a company, I think they're in California or West Coast. And I bought it and they drew me a picture on my invoice and it was Admiral Akbar saying, "It's a strap."
Oh, yes.
And
Brilliant.
It immediately
Brilliant.
endeared me to them forever. And they make great straps. Shout out
I will
Couch.
never buy another from us.
Yeah.
Incredible.
That's it.
Speaking
That's
of
it.
incredible,
One and done.
Ian, this has been so much fun having you
Oh
on.
my
We've
gosh,
had,
you
we've had
guys.
the best
Same.
time. We've had the best time.
Same. I had a
Absolute
blast.
pleasure.
Thank you so much. Great
Dude.
questions. Great hang. You guys are the best.
Yeah, it's good times. Good times around. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let us know, please, if you enjoyed this episode at home on your listening platform of choice. Give it 5 stars and review us. It has something to do with algorithms and reaching a lot more people online. If you're watching this on YouTube, please press the subscribe button and let us know in the comment section what you thought. If you're not watching this on YouTube, what are you thinking? What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Head on over. Get your eyes on these 3 handsome chaps that have been speaking to you for the last 2-ish hours about bass. It's been a lovely time. Again, thank you so much to everyone that's tuned in so far and helped out with the video stuff. 'Cause it's been Amazing.
Absolutely.
Chris, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me quite literally everywhere under That Guy on Bass. And yes, it's that time of the episode. It's time for me to plug my band, as I need to do in every single episode, because being in a band is hard. Please consider checking out my band. We're called Darla. We just brought out our debut EP. If you like heavy stuff, that's a bit of like an early 2000s throwback, I think you'll like it. All the details are in the show notes. And if all goes according to plan, which it should have, by the time this episode comes out, we will have announced something actually like big things came soon.
Oh my God.
Hell yeah.
But we will, I don't want to jinx it. So if it didn't happen for whatever reason, you can't shout at me. I recorded this a week ago. Don't judge me. But yes, please consider checking out my band. That will be very nice. Being in a band is hard. If you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, don't tell me, because my fragile ego can't take it. Thank you, Jonny.
Nice.
Look, we will find you.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, you can find me on YouTube /Jonny Dibble, and on Instagram at Jonny Dibble as well. And last but of course not least, Ian, tell yourself, where can people find you on the internet and what have you got going on?
I am mostly at Instagram, so you can find me there at Ian Martin Allison. Also, my website, Ian Martin Allison. Or if you don't want to type in the Martin for the website, I also procured IanAllison.com. I'm a content contributor and creative over at Scott's Bass Lessons, so I do a lot of stuff there as well. And also, I play for 4 artists that I think I implore you to check out: Mr. Eric Hutchinson, Dessa, who I played that bit on the podcast today. I also play for an amazing singer-songwriter called Jeremy Messersmith, and I play in a funk rock trio called the Orange Goodness. And those are all at their respective names. If you hit Google, you'll find them. Great artists, Minneapolis-based, incredible. So, except Eric, he's New York, but the other ones are all Minneapolis.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, guys, let's sign this puppy off. Thank you.
Can I play us out?
Only if it's a drone and it's really epic.
I have to play this for you guys. I'm going to play us out. Ready? Here we go.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Incredible.
Yes.
Incredible.